So during the season of Advent, we've been kind of paying attention to a Dietrich Bonhoeffer quote. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the more famous German Lutherans in the 1930s and 40s, said that as we come into Advent, as we come into Christmas, as we journey to the manger, we can't just sit in pews or sit in a theater and just watch an unfolding play. It's not enough for us to just watch it happen. We ourselves have to be raptured with the story and become participants, become characters in the story. And so we've looked at the way in which Joseph and his story unfolded. We looked at how Joseph had his life and his plans and his hopes all listed, and then disruption. And we watched how Joseph had to reimagine and dream again and discover new plans and new dreams and new hopes. And then we looked at Mary's story, and we saw that Mary wasn't little meek, mild Mary. That she had some brass to her, if you know what I mean. Like, she wasn't just a people pleaser. And because she wasn't a people pleaser, because Mary knew to say no to all the demands and stresses in life, she was able to say yes to God's dream. Today we're going to do... Whose story do you think we'll do today, based on the reading? Who is watching sheep? Shepherds, good. Glad you guys were all paying attention. Who are the shepherds? Evidently, there are people that in the year 2017 we still don't care that much about. This is a true story. I bought Ella a little people set of a nativity, and there was an angel. There was Mary and Joseph and little baby Jesus. There were some wise men. Shepherds sold separately. They were marginalized and not a part of society 2,000 years ago, and they're still marginalized and not in the little people set. The shepherds 2,000 years ago were on the margins. They weren't a part of the city life. They weren't a part of the center. They were on the hills. They were in the deserts. They were wandering around keeping the sheep. They weren't a part of city action. They weren't where the action was. To quote the great Broadway musical Hamilton, they weren't in the room where it happens. I'm very proud of that one. They were marginalized. They didn't see themselves, and no one saw themselves as really belonging and worthy and deserving. It is important to note that the first people who are told of Jesus' birth, who are told of this upside-down universe, of God's love coming to all of us, the first people greeted with that information, with that good news, are shepherds, are people who are out on the margins, are people who don't feel like they deserve love and belonging and worthiness. The first people to be told by the angels of God's unveiling truth are people who feel like they don't deserve worthiness and love. God's gift and message comes to them first. Well, what was the angel's message? First, it was, fear not. Do not be afraid. Fear. What is fear? Well, presumably fear for the shepherds was actually a kind of a good thing on some level, right? When the angels were saying to the shepherds, do not be afraid, they weren't saying, don't ever be afraid, shepherds, because you are kind of keeping the sheep safe from lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and you really have to be careful of those oh my's. They are the most dangerous. I thought that was really funny in the car. So when I was like testing this in my head, and I was like, that's really funny, and I have no idea why. It's stupidest thing I've ever said. It's just funny. The angels weren't saying, don't be afraid of lions and tigers and bears on my. Presumably it's okay to be afraid of those things. Fear is actually what allows all of us to be here today. If our ancestors didn't develop the emotion fear, we wouldn't be here. Because fear kept people safe for thousands and thousands of years. Fear isn't necessarily a bad emotion. The problem is, and what the angels are saying is, do not be full of fear. Do not be fearful. Do not let fear be the only emotion in your life. One of my favorite authors talks about fear, and she says, fear is really, really important, and it deserves a place in the car. Fear doesn't get to steer the car, and fear doesn't get to determine the music. Are you with me? Fear has a place in the car. It's just going to be in the back seat. It's not even going to be riding shotgun. It's in the back seat. It doesn't get to drive, and it doesn't determine the music. Because when we live lives full of fear, we actually numb all other emotional experiences out. We aren't able to experience any other emotion because we are only full of fear. It robs us. It numbs us. It actually, when really beautiful and amazing things happen, if we are full of fear, we experience something called foreboding joy, where it's, okay, this is really amazing, but I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the boot to fall, the shoe to drop. I'm just waiting for things to go the way they always go. We don't even allow ourselves to experience the full joy. Fear robs us of joy. And this is what the angels are saying. Do not be afraid. Do not be full of fear. Because I bring you good news of great joy. There is a dynamic relationship between fear and joy. Joy expels and drives out fear. When my kid was born, some 17 months ago, she spent most of the first week in the NICU. And what that did to me for a long while, create all kinds of fear and anxiety. And I couldn't go to sleep for months at night without waking up every 5, 10, 15 minutes. Not just because normal baby stuff, but because I was so terrified that we were going to end up back in the NICU. And the only thing that got me out of that life full of fear is daily, almost hourly, just holding Ella close to me and experiencing joy, her joy. I was determined to not allow that first week to shape and to fill me with fear. I want to be filled with joy. Ella is my joy. I'm not going to miss her because of fear. Joy. Joy drives out fear. Joy is difficult to explain. In Psalm 28, joy is described as something that the poet says, well, my heart leaps for joy. Joy is something that causes our hearts to leap. Obviously, when we're talking about joy, because it's so difficult to try and explain, we have to use metaphorical language, because none of us really want our hearts to leap. That would be a problem. Are we all in agreement? So joy, the only way that we can describe joy is like using metaphor. My heart leaps for joy. It's just, like, today I'm not feeling super great. I've got a cold coming on, but like I'm so excited to talk and to be here with you that like it was the only thing that could get me into the car and going, knowing I had a baptism. I'm like, super sanitize my hands and like, let's go, because joy. Joy is the thing that causes our hearts to leap. Joy is the thing that, like, when we get down to Disneyland, like I'm later today, and we put Ella into her little, like, stroller, and she, like, leans over and is nearly falling out of the stroller because she's so determined for us to get to the Little Mermaid. That's heart leaping for joy. What causes your heart to leap for joy? Psalm 51 says that joy is like a song. The psalmist says, let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones in my body that have been crushed by life rejoice. Joy is a song that takes us out of mourning into dancing. That clothes us, instead of with despair, but with like a new song and a new set of clothes. Joy is all these kind of brilliant, beautiful metaphors. Joy in Greek shares the same root word as the word gift. Joy is a gift. Life is a gift. Every breath, it's a gift. And when we cultivate that understanding, we experience more and more joy when we expel despair and fear. More and more joy. Life is a gift. Every moment, every breath, every experience, every song, it's joy. It's all a gift. But some of you may be saying, that's great, I agree theologically, but Pastor, you don't know my story. And I don't. I'm just coming to get to know you guys. Maybe you're saying, but Pastor, you don't know about my loss. You don't know about my grief. You don't know about the ways in which my bones have been crushed in life. You don't know what I have experienced. Pastor, that sounds great. My heart leaping for joy sounds great, but Pastor, you don't know my story. You don't know the ways in which I feel out of it. It's true, I don't. But I've observed in my life that joy actually isn't situational. That joy isn't dependent on our situation in life. That the shepherds, the marginalized, the people who were on the outs with society, the message of joy came to even them. Joy is not observational. I have seen and I've walked through divorce with some really beautiful people in the past 2 years, and I've seen how much that story of divorce and heartbreak has broken their hearts. But I know that joy is not dependent upon the situation, because I've seen these beautiful, amazing, broken-hearted people also dynamically express joy even in the midst of that. The other night, I was at the Domestic Violence Center nearby in Valencia, and people who have experienced all kinds of heartbreak. And when I talked to them about joy not being situational, you could see them nodding. They knew exactly that. Life has in some ways crushed their bones, but they knew joy. I don't know your particular story. I don't know the ways in which your bones may have been crushed. But I do know that you're not separated from joy. I do know that no matter what you're experiencing, you are not separated from joy. Joy is your song. Joy is your story. In Psalm 65, the poet says that all of creation is clothed and adorned with joy, awe, and wonder. Joy isn't situational. Joy is present reality all of the time, everywhere, in everything, all of the time. The thing that's important is, are we aware of it? Are we aware that all of creation is crowned and adorned with joy? Are we seeing the Christmas lights on the houses? When we're walking through the malls, are we hearing the beautiful carols humming? Are we aware as we look up in the night skies and seeing a heavenly host of stars singing to us, "Glory to God in the highest"? Perhaps Christmas, perhaps Advent, is a season in which we are to be reminded joy isn't situational. Joy is always present. Are we aware? Perhaps Christmas is simply the season that awakens us to seeing joy is always around us. Are we going to pay attention? Are we going to hear the angels? Are we going to listen to the stars? Are we going to listen to the songs and hear the angels speak truth to us? That wherever you have been and whatever you've done, whatever has crushed your bones, God declares you worthy of love and belonging and the gift of life and the gift of joy. May you this Advent and Christmas season May you notice all the signs of joy. May, no matter what has happened in your life, may you be aware you deserve love. You deserve belonging. You deserve joy. May joy be the song on your heart. Amen? Amen. Let's stand and sing some of that joy. In fact, it's like go tell it on the mountain. Amen?